From silent stalkers to supernatural forces, horror's most infamous killers have left trails of victims spanning decades of cinema. Tonight, we count every death, rank every monster, and uncover which icon truly reigns supreme. The numbers may disturb you, some will surprise you, one will shock you. Every horror movie killer, ranked by body count vertical bar sleep documentary. Intro. The numbers tell a story that decades of cinema have etched into our collective memory. Since the earliest days of the slasher genre, audiences have watched from darkened theaters and living rooms as fictional killers carved their way through countless victims, each death captured in meticulous detail by filmmakers who understood that the body count itself had become a kind of currency. Tonight, we examine that currency with precision and clarity, cataloging every confirmed kill across the most iconic villains in film history, ranking them not by reputation or cultural impact, but by the simple, measurable metric of how many lives they have taken on screen. The methodology behind this ranking requires careful explanation. We count only deaths that occur on screen or are directly attributed to the killer within the narrative of their respective films. A body discovered and confirmed as the work of our subject counts. An implied death without confirmation does not. We include all canonical entries in each franchise, from original theatrical releases through sequels, reboots, and legacy continuations. But we exclude television series, comic book adaptations, and video game tie-ins, unless those properties are explicitly referenced as canon within the film series itself. This creates a level playing field, measuring each killer by the same standard across their entire cinematic lifespan. The killers assembled in this ranking span 5 decades of filmmaking, from the grindhouse era of the 1970s through the self-aware slashers of the 1990s and into the elevated genre films of the 2000s and beyond. Some have appeared in only a handful of films. Others have stalked screens across more than a dozen entries in their respective franchises, accumulating victims with each new installment. The disparity in their totals is remarkable. Our lowest-ranked entry claims fewer than 40 confirmed kills across their entire filmography. Our highest has claimed hundreds, perhaps thousands, depending on how one interprets the rules of their particular universe. What makes this examination valuable is not merely the morbid accounting of fictional death, but what these numbers reveal about the evolution of the genre itself. Early slasher films operated under strict constraints, both budgetary and artistic, that limited the scale of their violence. As franchises grew and special effects technology advanced, filmmakers found new ways to expand the carnage. Some killers remained intimate in their approach, claiming victims one by one in close, personal encounters. Others evolved into forces of nature, capable of mass casualties that would have been unthinkable in the genre's formative years. We begin at the bottom of our ranking with those killers whose body counts, while significant, pale in comparison to the titans of the genre. These are not lesser villains. Their cultural impact often exceeds that of killers with higher totals. But tonight, we measure by numbers alone, and by that metric, these icons must occupy the lower positions on our list. As we progress upward through the ranking, the counts will climb steadily, sometimes doubling or tripling from one entry to the next, until we arrive at a figure so vast it defies easy comprehension. The lights dim, the projector hums, and the counting begins. Item 1. Chucky. In 1988, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer released a film that would redefine what audiences believed capable of inflicting harm on screen. Child's Play introduced the world to Charles Lee Ray, a serial killer from Chicago who, in the film's opening sequence, transfers his soul into a 2-foot-tall good guy doll moments before his human body dies from police gunfire. The doll's name was Chucky, and across 8 theatrical films and 1 direct-to-video entry spanning 35 years of continuous storytelling, This diminutive figure has claimed approximately 38 confirmed victims. The conception of Chucky emerged from the imagination of Don Mancini, who wrote the original screenplay while still a student at UCLA Film School. Mancini drew inspiration from the Cabbage Patch Kids phenomenon of the early 1980s, when parents across America engaged in near-violent competition to secure the popular dolls for their children. He wondered what might happen if one of these desperately sought toys harbored something genuinely malevolent. The script passed through several hands and underwent significant revisions before director Tom Holland brought it to screen. But Mancini's core concept remained intact: a killer who used his innocent appearance to access victims who would never suspect a child's toy. The body count across the Child's Play franchise accumulates methodically rather than explosively. In the original 1988 film, Chucky claims 6 victims. His methods are intimate and resourceful, adapted to the limitations of his small stature. He strangles. He uses sharp objects found in domestic environments. He employs electricity and fire. Each kill requires planning and opportunity, as a 2-foot doll cannot simply overpower an adult human through brute strength. This tactical necessity defined Chucky's character throughout the franchise, making him one of the more intellectually active killers in the genre. The 1990 sequel, Child's Play 2, added 5 more victims to the tally. The 1991 entry, Child's Play 3, contributed 6 additional deaths set against the backdrop of a military academy. These early films maintained a consistent tone, treating Chucky as a genuine threat despite his absurd physical form. The tension derived from the dissonance between what audiences saw, a children's toy, and what they knew, a cunning murderer with decades of killing experience. A significant tonal shift occurred in 1998 with Bride of Chucky, directed by Ronnie Yu and written again by Don Mancini. This 4th entry embraced dark comedy more openly, introducing the character of Tiffany, played by Jennifer Tilly, as both Chucky's romantic partner and fellow killer. The film added 10 victims to the franchise total, including several played for grotesque humor rather than pure terror. Some longtime fans resisted this evolution. Others embraced it as a necessary reinvention that extended the franchise's commercial viability. Seed of Chucky followed in 2004, continuing the comedic direction while adding 7 deaths. The film explored themes of identity and family through the lens of Chucky and Tiffany's gender-fluid offspring, Glenn and Glenda, named in reference to the Ed Wood film. Critical reception was mixed, but the franchise had clearly established a new identity distinct from its slasher origins. After a 7-year hiatus, Curse of Chucky arrived in 2013 as a direct-to-video release that marked a deliberate return to the franchise's darker roots. Director Don Mancini, who had shepherded the series since its inception, stripped away much of the humor from the previous 2 entries and crafted a contained thriller set primarily within a single Gothic mansion. The film added 5 victims and re-established Chucky as a figure capable of generating genuine dread rather than knowing laughs. Cult of Chucky followed in 2017, set within a psychiatric institution and adding 6 more deaths while playing with fractured narrative structure and multiple Chucky dolls operating simultaneously. The franchise had by now accumulated a mythology complex enough to reward longtime viewers while remaining accessible to newcomers willing to accept the central absurdity of a killer doll. The 2019 reboot, simply titled Child's Play, exists outside the original continuity and is therefore excluded from our canonical count. Produced without Don Mancini's involvement by a different studio that held certain rights to the property, this version reimagined Chucky as a malfunctioning artificial intelligence rather than a supernaturally possessed toy. While the film performed adequately at the box office, Earning nearly $45 million against a $10 million budget, Mancini continued developing the original timeline through other avenues. The Chucky television series, which premiered on Sci-Fi and USA Network in 2021, has significantly expanded the character's victim count beyond what the films established. However, by the criteria established for this ranking, television deaths do not factor into our totals. We count only theatrical and direct-to-video film releases within the original continuity, which places Chucky's confirmed kills at approximately 38 across 9 qualifying entries. The character of Chucky, voiced throughout the original continuity by Brad Dourif, represents something unique in the slasher pantheon. Unlike masked killers who communicate primarily through violence, Chucky speaks constantly, delivering profane quips and taunts that reveal a fully developed personality. Dourif's performance evolved across the decades, aging the character's voice subtly from film to film, suggesting that even in his plastic prison, Charles Lee Ray continued to experience the passage of time. What places Chucky at the bottom of our ranking is not any deficiency in menace or cultural impact, but simply mathematics. 38 victims across 9 films averages to approximately 4 kills per entry, a modest figure compared to the bloodbaths that await higher on this list. Chucky's intimate scale of violence reflects both his physical limitations and the franchise's commitment to character development over spectacle. The good guy doll sits on the shelf, button eyes staring forward, fixed smile revealing small white teeth. The battery compartment remains empty, the pull string hangs loose at its back, and yet the franchise continues, with Mancini expressing ongoing interest in both film and television continuations that will surely add to the count in years to come. Item 2. Leatherface. The year was 1974. Director Tobe Hooper, working with a budget of approximately $140,000 and a cast of unknown actors, created a film in the sweltering heat of Central Texas that would establish the template for an entire subgenre. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre introduced audiences to Leatherface, a hulking figure in a mask of human skin who wielded a chainsaw with terrifying efficiency. Across 9 films spanning nearly 50 years, this wordless killer has claimed approximately 41 confirmed victims, earning the 9th position in our ranking. The origins of Leatherface derive in part from the real case of Ed Gein, a Wisconsin man arrested in 1957 for murders committed in his rural farmhouse. Gein fashioned items from human remains, including masks made from the faces of his victims. Hooper combined this historical inspiration with his own observations about the industrialization of American meat production, creating a villain who embodied both primitive brutality and a twisted domesticity. Leatherface kills, but he also prepares dinner for his family. He wears the faces of others, but he does so to construct an identity he otherwise lacks. The original 1974 film operates with remarkable restraint by modern standards. Despite its reputation for extreme violence, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre shows relatively little explicit gore on screen. Hooper achieved his effects through sound design, editing, and suggestion, rather than graphic depiction. The film claims only 5 victims, each death earning its impact through careful construction, rather than visceral spectacle. Leatherface himself accounts for 3 of these deaths directly, with his family members responsible for the remainder. The character of Leatherface differs fundamentally from the calculated killers elsewhere on this list. He possesses the mental capacity of a child, following instructions from his dominant family members rather than initiating violence independently. In the original film, he expresses visible distress when strangers keep appearing at the farmhouse, suggesting that he experiences each killing as a traumatic necessity rather than a pleasure. This psychological complexity, established in 1974 and maintained with varying consistency across subsequent entries, distinguishes Leatherface from slashers who kill with obvious relish. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 arrived in 1986, directed again by Tobe Hooper, but with a radically different tone. Where the original film operated as a harrowing survival narrative, the sequel embraced dark comedy and extravagant gore, reflecting both Hooper's evolved sensibilities and the excesses of mid-80s genre filmmaking. The body count increased substantially, with Leatherface claiming approximately 9 victims across the film's running time. Dennis Hopper appeared as a Texas Ranger pursuing the killer family, adding Hollywood credibility to a franchise that had originated in obscurity. Leatherface. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 premiered in 1990, featuring a new continuity and a fresh cast that included Viggo Mortensen in a supporting role years before his mainstream breakthrough. The film added 6 victims to the franchise total, but failed to achieve significant commercial or critical success. Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation followed in 1994, notable primarily for early appearances by Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger, both of whom would achieve stardom within the following decade. This fourth entry contributed 5 additional deaths, while taking the franchise in increasingly bizarre narrative directions. A complete reboot occurred in 2003 when producer Michael Bay's Platinum Dunes Company released The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, directed by Marcus Nispel. This reimagining discarded the previous continuity entirely, presenting a new version of the Sawyer family, here renamed the Hewitts, and a redesigned Leatherface portrayed by Andrew Briniarski. The film proved enormously successful commercially, earning over $107 million worldwide against a $10 million budget. The remake added approximately 8 victims to the franchise total, though purists debated whether deaths in non-canonical entries should count at all. The prequel Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning arrived in 2006, exploring the origins of the Hewitt family and young Leatherface's first kills. Set during the final days of the local slaughterhouse's operation, the film added 7 victims, while providing backstory for characters introduced in the remake. R. Lee Ermey reprised his role as Sheriff Hoyt, the family patriarch whose influence shaped Leatherface into the killer audiences had witnessed in the previous entry. Texas Chainsaw 3D, released in 2013, ignored the remake continuity and presented itself as a direct sequel to the 1974 original, dismissing all intervening entries as non-canonical. The film's timeline created significant confusion, as characters who should have been in their 40s based on established chronology appeared to be in their 20s. But the narrative ambition of connecting to Hooper's original work earned appreciation from some viewers. This entry added approximately 4 confirmed victims to the count. Leatherface, a prequel released in 2017, explored the killer's teenage years and his time in a psychiatric institution before his transformation into the chainsaw-wielding figure of the original film. Stephen Dorff and Lily Taylor appeared as law enforcement figures pursuing the young protagonist, while the film contributed 6 deaths to the franchise tally. Critical reception proved poor, with many questioning the necessity of explaining a character whose power derived partly from his inexplicable nature. The most recent theatrical entry, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, arrived on Netflix in 2022. Directed by David Blue Garcia from a script with significant studio intervention, the film presented an elderly Leatherface living quietly in a Texas orphanage before violence once again erupts. The body count increased dramatically, with approximately 10 confirmed kills across the film's 90 minutes. Modern effects technology allowed for explicit carnage that earlier entries could only suggest, though some critics argued that increased explicitness diminished rather than enhanced the franchise's power. Across all 9 canonical entries, including both the original continuity and the early 2000s remake timeline, Leatherface has claimed approximately 41 victims. This count places him slightly above Chucky, but still in the lower tier of our ranking. The character's relatively modest numbers reflect the franchise's setting in rural isolation rather than urban environments, limiting the available victim pool in most entries. What distinguishes Leatherface from other slasher icons is his essential humanity beneath the monstrous exterior. He wears masks because he lacks a stable identity of his own. He follows family orders because independent thought terrifies him. He kills because that is what his family has taught him to do, not because he derives pleasure from the act. In the original film, Tobe Hooper staged a scene where Leatherface sits at a window in visible distress, overwhelmed by events beyond his comprehension. The chainsaw, which has become the character's defining weapon and an icon of the genre itself, appeared almost by accident in the original production. Hooper needed a tool that would create both visual impact and terrifying sound while remaining plausible in a rural Texas setting. The chainsaw fulfilled all requirements perfectly, its roar becoming as recognizable as any dialogue in cinema history. When Leatherface swings the weapon overhead in the original film's famous final shot, dancing against the sunrise in impotent rage as his intended victim escapes, the image burns itself into memory with permanent intensity. 41 victims across half a century of filmmaking. The count continues to grow with each new entry, though the franchise shows no signs of slowing, despite mixed critical reception for recent installments. The Texas landscape remains, the farmhouse still stands in various incarnations, and somewhere in the fictional geography of American nightmares, Leatherface waits with engine idling. Item 3. Ghostface. On December 20th, 1996, Dimension Films released Scream into theaters with modest commercial expectations. Director Wes Craven, who had already transformed the genre twice before with The Last House on the Left and A Nightmare on Elm Street, delivered a self-aware slasher that simultaneously honored and deconstructed the conventions audiences had absorbed over 2 decades of genre filmmaking. The killer wore a mass-produced Halloween costume, a ghost face mask that anyone could purchase from any party store, and across 7 films spanning 27 years, various individuals wearing this disguise have claimed approximately 52 confirmed victims. The Ghostface concept originated with screenwriter Kevin Williamson, who wrote the original script under the title Scary Movie during a period of unemployment in 1995. Williamson crafted characters who had grown up watching the same slasher films that audiences had consumed throughout the 1980s, creating protagonists who understood the rules of the genre they were living through. When the killer calls in the film's opening sequence and asks Drew Barrymore's character about her favorite horror movie, he establishes a new dynamic. This is a world where Halloween and Friday the 13th exist, and both killer and victims know the playbook. The original Scream claims 7 victims across its 111-minute running time, a significant number for a slasher of its era, but restrained compared to the sequels that would follow. The deaths serve narrative purpose beyond spectacle, each one revealing information about the killer's identity or advancing the mystery that Williamson constructed with careful attention to fair play conventions. When the killers are finally unmasked, there are 2 working together, a twist that shocked audiences in 1996. Their motivations connect directly to events established earlier in the film. Neve Campbell portrayed Sidney Prescott, the final girl whose survival across multiple entries would eventually make her the defining protagonist of the franchise. Campbell brought intelligence and emotional depth to a role that could have devolved into screaming victim cliches, creating a character who fought back with increasing competence as the series progressed. Her Sydney became the standard against which subsequent final girls would be measured, a protagonist who survived not through luck, but through determination and growing combat ability. Scream 2 arrived in December 1997, less than a year after the original's release, capitalizing on enormous commercial momentum. The sequel added 10 victims to the franchise total, while exploring the aftermath of survival and the commodification of tragedy. Within the film's narrative, the events of the first Scream have been adapted into a movie called Stab, allowing Williamson and Craven to comment on Hollywood's exploitation of real violence, while themselves producing entertainment from fictional violence. This metatextual layering became the franchise's signature approach. The production of Scream 2 occurred under remarkable time pressure, with Williamson delivering the script in sections while principal photography was already underway. Security around the killer's identity reached paranoid levels after the first film's twist leaked before release. Multiple fake pages circulated to confuse potential leakers, and even some cast members did not know the killer's identity until filming their revelation scenes. Scream 3 premiered in February 2000, relocating the action to Hollywood, where the fictional Stab 3 is in production. The film added 8 victims while concluding what was initially conceived as a trilogy. Wes Craven returned to direct, but Kevin Williamson was unavailable due to commitments to other projects, and Aaron Kruger took over screenwriting duties. The result divided fans, with some appreciating the Hollywood satire and others finding the departure from Williamson's voice jarring. The original trilogy concluded with Scream 3, and for over a decade, the franchise remained dormant. During this period, the slasher genre that Scream had revitalized faded again from commercial prominence, replaced by torture-focused films in the early 2000s and supernatural fare later in the decade. The Ghostface mask, once a ubiquitous Halloween costume, became a nostalgic reference to 90s pop culture rather than a symbol of contemporary fear. 11 years after Scream 3, the franchise returned with Scream 4 in April 2011. Wes Craven directed once more, with Kevin Williamson returning to write the screenplay. The film added 13 victims to the franchise total, the highest single-entry count to that point, while introducing a new generation of characters alongside returning favorites. The narrative examined social media culture and the desire for fame at any cost, themes that resonated with the era's obsession with viral celebrity. Scream 4 underperformed at the box office relative to expectations, earning approximately $97 million worldwide against a $40 million budget. Plans for an immediate continuation were shelved, and Wes Craven's death in August 2015 appeared to close the franchise permanently. Craven had directed all 4 entries, and his singular vision seemed inseparable from the series' identity. In January 2022, the 5th Scream, simply titled Scream, though fans often call it Scream 5, arrived from directors Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillette, working from a screenplay by James Vanderbilt and Guy Busick. The film added 9 victims while passing the franchise torch to new characters, including Melissa Barrera as Sam Carpenter, whose connection to the original films provides the narrative foundation. Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, and David Arquette all returned, though one of these legacy characters does not survive the entry. The 2022 film explicitly addressed toxic fandom and gatekeeping within genre communities, with characters debating what constitutes acceptable evolution for a beloved franchise. This commentary proved prophetic when online discourse around the film's quality became contentious, with some longtime fans rejecting the new direction, while others welcomed fresh perspectives on familiar material. Scream the 6th followed in March 2023, relocating the action to New York City for the first time in franchise history. The change in setting allowed for the highest body count in any single Scream entry, with approximately 10 confirmed victims falling to various Ghostface killers across the film's 2-hour running time. The urban environment enabled crowd sequences impossible in the suburban settings of previous entries, and the film leaned into this expanded scale while maintaining the mystery structure that defines the series. Neve Campbell declined to appear in Scream the Sixth due to salary disputes, marking the first entry without Sidney Prescott. The film compensated by expanding roles for other legacy characters, including Courtney Cox's Gale Weathers and Hayden Panettiere's Kirby Reed, who had survived Scream 4 despite apparent death in that entry. The commercial performance exceeded expectations, earning over $169 million worldwide and guaranteeing further continuation. Across 7 films from 1996 through 2023, Ghostface has claimed approximately 52 confirmed victims. This total requires special notation because Ghostface is not a single entity, but rather a mantle assumed by different individuals in each entry. The franchise has featured a minimum of 13 separate killers operating under the Ghostface identity, sometimes working alone and sometimes in pairs. The count reflects not the work of one murderer, but rather a succession of killers united only by their choice of disguise. This unique approach to the slasher icon, making Ghostface a role rather than a character, allows the franchise to provide genuine mystery in each entry. Unlike Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers, whose survival is never in question, Ghostface must be unmasked and explained each time. The killer's human vulnerability creates stakes that supernatural slashers cannot replicate. Ghostface can be shot, stabbed, knocked unconscious. Every killer who has worn the mask has died by the film's conclusion, only for another to emerge in the sequel. 52 victims, 13 killers, 7 films. The mathematics of Ghostface placed the franchise at position 8 on our ranking, above Leatherface and Chucky, but below the titans still to come. The count will surely grow, as Scream 7 has been announced with renewed involvement from Kevin Williamson as director. Item 4. Pennywise. The entity that calls itself Pennywise the Dancing Clown predates human civilization by approximately 1 billion years, according to the mythology established by Stephen King in his 1986 novel It. The creature arrived on Earth when the land that would become Derry, Maine was still forming, and it has fed on human fear and human flesh in 27-year cycles ever since. Across 2 theatrical adaptations and 1 television miniseries, Pennywise has claimed approximately 60 confirmed on-screen victims, though the lore suggests the actual toll measures in thousands across the entity's long existence. Stephen King wrote it during a period of remarkable productivity in the 1980s, producing the 1,100-page manuscript that would become one of his most celebrated and ambitious works. The novel interweaves timelines between 1958, when 7 children first confront the creature, and 1985, when the same characters return as adults to face it once more. King's conception of Pennywise derived from his observation that clowns, despite their intended purpose of bringing joy to children, frequently produce the opposite reaction. The painted smile becomes a mask. The exaggerated features suggest something fundamentally wrong with the face beneath. The first screen adaptation arrived in November 1990 as a 2-part television miniseries directed by Tommy Lee Wallace for ABC. Tim Curry portrayed Pennywise in a performance that would define the character for a generation of viewers, finding menace in theatrical exuberance rather than silent stalking. Curry's Pennywise jokes. He dances, he offers balloons and promises of entertainment before revealing the teeth beneath the grease paint. The miniseries claimed approximately 23 victims across its 3-hour running time, though budgetary constraints and broadcast standards limited the graphic depiction of these deaths. The casting of Tim Curry proved transformative for the production. Curry, already beloved for his role as Dr. Frankenfurter in the Rocky Horror Picture Show, brought theatrical precision to Pennywise that elevated modest television production values. His line readings became iconic, particularly the simple declaration, "We all float down here," which encapsulated the creature's simultaneous invitation and threat. The sewer-dwelling clown offering balloons to children became a cultural touchstone that persisted long after the miniseries faded from regular broadcast rotation. 27 years passed between 1990 and 2017, the same cycle that governs Pennywise's hunting patterns in the fiction. Whether by design or coincidence, this gap separated the theatrical release of It, Chapter 1, from the original television adaptation. Director Andy Muschietti reimagined the material with a budget and technical capability that Wallace could never have accessed, and Bill Skarsgård assumed the role of Pennywise with an interpretation deliberately distinct from Curry's approach. Where Curry had found terror through charisma and verbal menace, Skarsgård created a Pennywise of physical wrongness. His face moves in ways faces should not move. His limbs bend at impossible angles. His eyes point in slightly different directions, creating an uncanny effect that no amount of theatrical makeup could replicate. The digital enhancement of Skarsgård's performance allowed for a creature that exists just beyond the limits of human physiology, visibly wrong in ways the viewer cannot quite articulate. It, Chapter 1 focused exclusively on the young protagonists in their 1989 childhood confrontation with Pennywise, saving the adult timeline for a planned sequel. The film claimed approximately 19 victims, including both on-screen deaths and confirmed kills mentioned within the narrative. Georgie Denborough, the 6-year-old whose death in the opening scene sets the story in motion, remains the most memorable victim, a child reaching for a paper boat in a storm drain, accepting help from a clown who should not exist in such a place. The film became a historic success, earning over $700 million worldwide and setting records for opening weekend performance in September, a traditionally weak period for theatrical releases. The cultural conversation around it. Chapter 1 dominated autumn 2017, with Pennywise costumes appearing at every Halloween celebration, and the red balloon becoming an instantly recognizable symbol of the franchise. It Chapter 2 arrived in September 2019, completing the adaptation with the Adult Losers Club, returning to Derry 27 years after their first encounter with Pennywise. The film featured Jessica Chastain, James McAvoy, Bill Hader, Isaiah Mustafa, Jay Ryan, James Ransone, and Andy Bean as the grown versions of the child characters, while Bill Skarsgård returned as Pennywise with expanded screen time and more elaborate set pieces. The sequel added approximately 18 confirmed victims to the franchise total. The transition from childhood to adulthood, which King used to explore themes of memory, trauma, and the comprom Every Horror Movie Killer ranked by body count vertical bar sleep documentary. Item 5, Freddy Krueger. In 1984, director Wes Craven introduced the world to a villain unlike any that had come before. While other killers stalked their victims in the physical world, Frederick Charles Krueger operated in a realm where the rules of reality did not apply. He hunted teenagers in their dreams, transforming the one place where every human being is vulnerable, sleep itself, into a hunting ground from which there could be no escape. The character emerged from Craven's own experiences and research. In interviews, the director recalled reading Los Angeles Times articles in the early 1980s about a phenomenon affecting Southeast Asian refugees. Young men, seemingly healthy, were dying in their sleep after reporting intense nightmares. Medical examiners could find no physical cause. Craven was struck by the idea that something in dreams could manifest with fatal consequences in waking life. This kernel of real-world tragedy became the foundation for one of cinema's most enduring villains. Robert Englund was not the first choice for the role. Craven initially envisioned a larger, more physically imposing figure, but Englund's audition brought something unexpected to Krueger: a theatrical quality, a dark humor that suggested intelligence and cruelty working in concert. Englund would portray the character across 8 films, spanning from 1984 to 2003, creating a performance that evolved from genuinely threatening to increasingly comedic before returning to darker territory in later installments. The makeup and costume design became instantly iconic. Krueger's face, covered in burn scars, required 3.5 hours to apply for each day of filming. The red and green striped sweater was chosen deliberately by Craven, who had read a Scientific American article suggesting this particular color combination was the most visually unsettling to the human eye. The fedora, the glove with its 4 custom-made finger blades, each element was crafted with intention. But it is the body count that concerns us here. Across the original 7 Nightmare on Elm Street films, plus Freddy vs. Jason and the 2010 remake, Krueger is directly responsible for approximately 35 to 40 confirmed kills. The exact number varies depending on whether one counts certain ambiguous deaths or limits the tally to the original continuity only. In the first film, released on November 9, 1984, Krueger claims 4 victims. Tina Gray is dragged across the ceiling of her bedroom, slashed by invisible claws. Rod Lane is strangled by his own bedsheets in a jail cell, a death staged to appear as suicide. Glenn Lance, portrayed by a young Johnny Depp in his film debut, is pulled into his bed and expelled as a geyser of blood, a practical effect requiring over 500 gallons of liquid. Only Nancy Thompson survives, turning her back on Krueger and denying him the fear he requires. A Nightmare on Elm Street. Part 2, Freddy's Revenge, arrived in 1985 and took a different approach. Rather than stalking dreams, Krueger attempted to possess teenager Jesse Walsh and use his body to kill in the waking world. The film added approximately 8 kills to the count, including an infamous sequence at a pool party where Krueger materializes and attacks multiple teenagers. Critics and audiences were divided on this departure from the original's mythology, but the film proved financially successful enough to warrant continuation. The third installment, Dream Warriors, released in 1987, is often cited as the creative peak of the franchise. Written by Craven, Bruce Wagner, Frank Darabont, and Chuck Russell, the film returned to the dream premise while expanding the mythology significantly. We learn that Krueger was the son of Amanda Krueger, a nun who was accidentally locked in a tower with 100 criminally insane patients who attacked her over the course of several days. This origin story, the bastard son of 100 maniacs, gave the character a tragic, twisted backstory. Dream Warriors added approximately 7 more victims to Krueger's tally. Each death was tailored to the specific fears or desires of the victim. Philip, a sleepwalker and puppet enthusiast, has his tendons extracted and used as marionette strings. Jennifer, who dreams of television stardom, has her head smashed through a television set. Taryn, recovering from drug addiction, is injected with an overdose by Krueger's fingers transformed into syringes. The fourth film, The Dream Master, released in 1988, continued the story while again shifting protagonists. Alice Johnson becomes the new target, and Krueger claims approximately 6 more lives in increasingly elaborate dream sequences. This installment marked the point where Krueger's one-liners became more prominent, each kill accompanied by a quip or pun that balanced dark humor with violence. The film became the highest-grossing entry in the franchise at that time, earning over $49 million domestically. The Dream Child arrived in 1989, and Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare in 1991. These later entries added approximately 8 to 10 more kills between them, while revealing additional backstory. We learn that Krueger had a wife and daughter in life, that his human existence involved child murder long before his death and transformation into a dream demon. His eventual destruction in Freddy's Dead, killed by his own daughter in the real world, seemed to close the book on the character. But Wes Craven returned to his creation in 1994 with New Nightmare, a metafictional film in which Freddy Krueger existed as a fictional character threatening to cross into the real world. Heather Langenkamp, who portrayed Nancy Thompson in the original, played herself. Robert Englund appeared as both himself and as Krueger. The film added approximately 3 kills, while exploring what happens when cultural mythologies become powerful enough to take on lives of their own. Freddy vs. Jason, released in 2003, brought 2 iconic villains together after years of development and false starts. The premise placed Krueger in a weakened state, forgotten by the children of Springwood because their parents had suppressed all knowledge of his existence. Without fear to feed upon, Krueger could not enter dreams. His solution was to resurrect Jason Voorhees and send him to Elm Street, using Jason's murders to rekindle fear of Krueger himself. The film's kills are divided between the 2 villains, with Krueger responsible for approximately 4 deaths directly and Jason claiming the majority. The climax sees the 2 battling each other, neither truly victorious, both too iconic to be permanently destroyed. The 2010 remake, produced by Michael Bay's Platinum Dunes, recast Krueger with Jackie Earle Haley in the role. The redesign was more realistic, the tone more consistently dark, but the film struggled to capture what made England's interpretation memorable. Approximately 5 kills occur in this continuity, which has not been continued with sequels. Tallying the complete count requires acknowledging some ambiguity. Certain deaths occur off-screen or are attributed to Krueger indirectly, but a reasonable estimate places his total between 35 and 42 confirmed victims across all film appearances. This places him firmly in the middle range of our list, more prolific than those below him, but significantly less lethal than the killers still to come. What makes this count particularly notable is the methodology. Krueger cannot be escaped through wakefulness alone. Eventually, everyone must sleep, and in that vulnerability lies his power. The teenage victims of Springwood, Ohio, did not choose to face their killer. They could not arm themselves effectively against him. They entered his domain involuntarily, every night, until he decided to strike. The franchise grossed over $450 million worldwide across its various installments. Krueger's image has appeared on lunchboxes, Halloween costumes, video games, and countless pieces of merchandise. He has been parodied, referenced, and homaged across popular culture for 4 decades. Item 6. Pinhead. There is a device central to understanding the next entry on our list. It is known by several names: the Lament Configuration, the Box of Sorrows, the Puzzle Box. In the fictional mythology created by British author and filmmaker Clive Barker, this artifact serves as a doorway. Solving its puzzle does not grant wishes or reveal hidden treasures. It summons beings from another dimension, beings who have spent eternity exploring the furthest regions of experience, entities who no longer distinguish between pleasure and pain. Their leader, in the films at least, is a figure known colloquially as Pinhead. He was not originally given this name by his creator. Clive Barker referred to him simply as the Hell Priest, or the lead Cenobite. The nickname came from fans and eventually became official, though Barker has noted his ambivalence about such a casual designation for a character he intended to be genuinely transcendent in his menace. The character first appeared in Barker's 1986 novella The Hellbound Heart, published by Dark Harvest Press. When Barker adapted his own work for the screen, the resulting film, Hellraiser, released on September 18, 1987, would launch a franchise spanning 10 films, a 2022 reimagining, multiple comic book series, and an enduring place in popular culture. Doug Bradley portrayed the character in the first 8 films, creating an interpretation that balanced philosophical discourse with genuine threat. The makeup required approximately 200 pins to be carefully placed in a prosthetic grid pattern covering Bradley's head and face. The application process took between 4 and 6 hours per session. Bradley wore black leather vestments that exposed portions of his torso where the flesh had been ritually cut and splayed, a visual representation of the Cenobite's belief that experience, even painful experience, could become transcendent. The Cenobites themselves are not demons in the traditional sense, though they are often described as such. In Barker's original conception, they were humans once, individuals who sought sensation beyond mortal limits and were transformed through their pursuit. They serve a higher order, the Leviathan, and they operate according to their own laws. Those who solve the puzzle box have summoned them willingly, whether they understood the consequences or not. In the first Hellraiser film, the body count attributable to Pinhead and his accompanying Cenobites is relatively modest. Approximately 3 deaths directly caused by them, with additional deaths caused by human characters acting under their influence or fleeing their presence. The primary victims are Frank Cotton, who originally solved the box and was torn apart by hook chains, and later Julia Cotton and Frank again after his partial resurrection. The sequel, Hellbound Hellraiser 2, arrived in 1988 and expanded the mythology significantly. We witnessed the transformation of Dr. Philip Channard into a new Cenobite. We explore the labyrinthine dimension the Cenobites call home. And crucially, we learn of Pinhead's human origin, that he was once Captain Elliot Spencer, a British soldier who served in the First World War and was so traumatized by the violence of the Somme that he lost all sense of meaning and morality, eventually solving the lament configuration in search of new sensation. This humanization would become important in later films, where the Elliot Spencer persona occasionally surfaced in conflict with the Pinhead identity. The body count in Hellbound reaches approximately 8 deaths attributable to Cenobite activity, including Dr. Channard's victims after his transformation. Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth, released in 1992, took the franchise in a more commercial direction and significantly increased the kill count. Set primarily in New York City, the film sees Pinhead separated from his human conscience and becoming purely destructive. A nightclub massacre adds approximately 15 to 20 deaths in a single sequence. This installment brought the total franchise body count past 30 confirmed kills. Hellraiser, Bloodline, released in 1996, attempted to tell a generational story spanning from 18th century France to a space station in the year 2127. The film follows the toy maker Philippe Lemarchand, who originally created the puzzle box, and his descendants, who attempt to destroy what their ancestor built. This installment adds approximately 10 more deaths while significantly expanding the lore around the lament configuration's origins. The subsequent direct-to-video sequels, Inferno, Hellseeker, Deader, and Hellworld, were not originally written as Hellraiser films. Existing scripts were modified to include Pinhead and the puzzle box, resulting in stories that felt disconnected from Barker's original vision. However, each added to the cumulative body count, with estimates placing the total deaths across these 4 films at approximately 20 to 25. Hellraiser, Revelations in 2011, and Hellraiser, Judgment in 2018 continued the franchise without Doug Bradley, using different interpretations of the lead Cenobite. The kills continued, though audience and critical response diminished with each passing entry. The The 2022 Hellraiser, directed by David Bruckner, reimagined the character entirely. Jamie Clayton portrayed the Hell Priest, bringing a feminine interpretation to the role. The film returned to theatrical release and received generally positive reviews for its visual style and psychological approach. Approximately 6 deaths occur in this installment, bringing the total franchise count to well over 70 confirmed kills across all media. However, Pinhead's personal responsibility for these deaths requires examination. Many kills in the franchise are performed by other Cenobites, by humans acting under supernatural influence, or by circumstances surrounding the puzzle box, rather than the Hell Priest directly. Attributing specific kills to Pinhead himself, counting only deaths where he personally delivers the killing blow or directly commands the fatal action, reduces the count to approximately 35 to 40 direct kills across all appearances. This places Pinhead in close proximity to Freddy Krueger on our list, with both occupying the middle tier of slasher villain body counts. The similarity is not coincidental. Both characters emerged from the same era of horror filmmaking. Both received numerous sequels of varying quality, and both represent a particular approach to the genre. Killers who are more than simple murderers, who embody ideas and philosophies that elevate them beyond mere physical threat. What distinguishes Pinhead is his relationship with his victims. Unlike Krueger, who explicitly targets teenagers in vengeance for his own death, Pinhead does not hunt. The puzzle box must be solved voluntarily. Those who open it have sought sensation, sought escape from ordinary existence, sought something beyond mortal experience. The Cenobites are, in their own understanding, granting exactly what was requested. This philosophy is articulated in Pinhead's most famous lines. In the original Hellraiser, he tells protagonist Kirsty Cotton, "We have such sights to show you." Later, "No tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering." And perhaps most chillingly, "We will tear your soul apart." These lines, delivered in Doug Bradley's measured baritone, suggest a being who genuinely believes he is offering something of value, even as chains tear flesh from bone. Clive Barker has spoken about his intentions for the character in numerous interviews over the decades. He conceived the Cenobites not as evil per se, but as neutral, beings who simply exist in a different relationship to pain and pleasure than humans do. Their realm operates by different rules. To enter it unprepared is to experience those rules directly, with inevitably destructive results for a human psyche and body. The franchise has generated over $100 million in total revenue across theatrical and home video releases. Pinhead's image, the pale face, the mathematical precision of the pins, the black leather vestments, remains instantly recognizable nearly 4 decades after his first appearance. Item 7. Michael Myers. On the night of October 31st, 1963, in the small Illinois town of Haddonfield, a 6-year-old boy committed an act that would define the rest of his existence. Michael Audrey Myers walked upstairs in his family home, retrieved a kitchen knife, and stabbed his 17-year-old sister Judith to death while she sat at her vanity. When his parents returned home and found him standing on the front lawn, still holding the weapon, still wearing the clown costume he had worn for trick-or-treating, they were confronted with something they could not explain. Neither could anyone else. This is the opening sequence of Halloween, released October 25th, 1978, directed by John Carpenter from a script he co-wrote with producer Deborah Hill. The film was produced for approximately $300,000, shot in 21 days, and would gross over $70 million worldwide. It is widely credited with establishing the template for the slasher genre that would dominate horror cinema throughout the early 1980s. The character of Michael Myers was conceived as an absence, a shape, a blank, a figure without psychology or motivation. Carpenter has stated in interviews that he wanted to create something that could not be understood, that did not offer the comfort of explanation. Dr. Samuel Loomis, Myers' psychiatrist, portrayed by Donald Pleasance, spends much of the film attempting to articulate what he observed during 15 years of treating his patient. The words he settles on are simple and stark. "I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face and the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes," Loomis says in the film. "I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up, because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil." The mask that would become iconic was famously a modified Captain Kirk mask, purchased for approximately $2 from a prop shop. Production designer Tommy Lee Wallace spray-painted it white, reshaped the eye holes, and teased out the hair. The result was a face that appeared human but wrong, expressionless, immobile, watching without revealing what thoughts, if any, moved behind it. In the original 1978 film, Michael Myers kills 5 people. His sister Judith in the opening sequence, a mechanic whose coveralls he steals, and 3 teenagers on Halloween night 1978, Annie Brackett, Linda van der Klok, and Bob Sims. He attempts to kill Laurie Strode, portrayed by Jamie Lee Curtis in her film debut, but she survives. Dr. Loomis shoots Myers 6 times, causing him to fall from a 2nd-story balcony, but when Loomis looks down from the window, the body has vanished. Halloween 2, released in 1981, picks up immediately where the original ended. Michael continues his pursuit of Laurie Strode, now revealed to be his younger sister, a plot point Carpenter has admitted he regrets, feeling it provided motivation where none should exist. The film takes place primarily at Haddonfield Memorial Hospital, where the injured Laurie has been taken. The body count increases substantially in this sequel. Approximately 10 additional victims fall to Myers throughout the night, including hospital staff and a security guard. The death methods become more elaborate: a hydrotherapy scalding, a hammer claw to the head, an injection of air into a temple. The film concludes with an explosion that apparently kills Myers, though the ambiguity of slasher conventions left the door open for continuation. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, released in 1982, did not feature Michael Myers at all. Carpenter and Hill intended the Halloween brand to become an anthology series, with each installment telling a different story connected to the holiday. Season of the Witch involved a conspiracy by a novelty company to kill children through microchips in Halloween masks. The film was poorly received by audiences expecting Myers' return and has only been reappraised more favorably in recent decades. Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, arrived in 1988, bringing the character back after a 10-year absence within the story's timeline. Myers escapes during a transfer from Smith's Grove Sanitarium and returns to Haddonfield seeking Jamie Lloyd, his niece and the daughter of the now-deceased Laurie Strode. Approximately 16 deaths occur in this installment, including ambulance personnel, gas station attendants, police officers, and civilians. Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, followed in 1989, and Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers in 1995. These films introduced increasingly convoluted mythology involving a druid cult called the Cult of Thorn, which had placed a curse on young Michael that compelled him to kill his entire bloodline. The body counts continued to climb, approximately 8 deaths in Halloween 5 and 12 in Halloween 6. But critical and commercial reception declined with each entry. Halloween H20, 20 years later, released in 1998, ignored the previous 3 sequels and presented itself as a direct follow-up to Halloween 2. Jamie Lee Curtis returned as Laurie Strode, now living under an assumed identity as headmistress of a private school in California. The film's climax sees Laurie finally confronting her brother directly, apparently decapitating him with an axe. Approximately 5 deaths occur in this installment, but Halloween, Resurrection in 2002 revealed that the man Laurie killed was not Michael, but a paramedic whose larynx Myers had crushed, preventing him from speaking to identify himself. Laurie is killed early in the film, and the remainder follows a group of young people participating in an internet reality show filmed inside the Myers house. Approximately 9 deaths occur before the film's conclusion, which again leaves Myers' fate ambiguous. The franchise was then rebooted entirely by director Rob Zombie, who released Halloween in 2007 and Halloween 2 in 2009. These films attempted to explain Michael Myers, providing extensive backstory about his troubled childhood, his relationship with his mother, and the psychological factors that might have contributed to his violence. The body counts were high, approximately 19 deaths in the first zombie film and approximately 14 in the second, but the approach divided fans who preferred the inexplicable nature of Carpenter's original conception. Then, in 2018, another continuity was established. David Gordon Green directed Halloween, produced with involvement from John Carpenter and Jamie Lee Curtis. This film ignored all previous sequels, presenting itself as a direct follow-up to the 1978 original only. 40 years had passed. Laurie Strode had spent those decades preparing for Michael's return, transforming herself into a survivalist and straining her relationships with her daughter and granddaughter. The 2018 Halloween added approximately 13 deaths to Myers' count, including psychiatrists, police officers, and numerous Haddonfield residents on the 40th anniversary of the original massacre. The film grossed over $255 million worldwide, the highest total for any Halloween film. Halloween Kills followed in 2021, and Halloween Ends in 2022, completing the new trilogy. Halloween Kills set a franchise record for body count, with Myers killing approximately 31 people in a single film, more than the original trilogy combined. The film depicts Myers' transformation from human threat to something approaching mythological force, growing stronger with each kill as the town of Haddonfield descends into vigilante violence, attempting to stop him. Halloween Ends concluded the trilogy with Michael's apparent final death, though the conventions of the genre make such finality uncertain. Across this most recent trilogy alone, approximately 48 deaths are attributable to Myers. Calculating Michael Myers' total body count requires choosing which continuity to follow. If we limit ourselves to the original timeline, the 1978 film through Halloween, Resurrection, the count reaches approximately 60 confirmed kills. The Rob Zombie continuity adds approximately 33. The 2018 to 2022 trilogy adds approximately 48. Combining all appearances across all continuities yields a total exceeding 140 deaths. This places Michael Myers among the most prolific killers in slasher cinema, though his count remains lower than the highest entries still to come on our list. What distinguishes Myers is not merely the number, but the persistence. He has been walking toward his victims since 1978. He does not run, he does not speak. He simply appears and appears and appears again, moving with that unhurried pace that suggests not urgency, but inevitability. John Carpenter's score for the original film, a simple 5/4 time signature piano melody that the director composed himself in 3 days, has become one of the most recognizable pieces of music in cinema history. The franchise has grossed over $700 million worldwide across all installments. The white mask, the blue coveralls, the kitchen knife raised overhead, these images have embedded themselves in popular consciousness as thoroughly as any in the genre. Dr. Loomis spent his professional life trying to understand what he saw in Michael Myers. Carpenter's genius was recognizing that some things should not be understood. The Shape, as Myers is credited in the original film, works precisely because he offers nothing to analyze. He is not a person who kills, he is killing given human form. Every horror movie killer ranked by body count vertical bar sleep documentary. Item 8. Jigsaw. In the landscape of cinematic antagonists, few have redefined the boundaries of their genre quite like John Kramer, the man who would become known simply as Jigsaw. His story begins not with violence, but with tragedy, loss, and a philosophical transformation that would leave dozens of victims caught in elaborate mechanical constructions designed to test their will to survive. The character first appeared on October 29, 2004, when director James Wan and writer Lee Whannell introduced audiences to a low-budget independent film simply titled Saw. Shot in just 18 days on a budget of approximately $1.2 million, the film would go on to gross over $100 million worldwide, launching a franchise that would span 9 theatrical releases over the following 2 decades. John Kramer, portrayed by actor Tobin Bell across all major installments of the series, was a civil engineer by profession. Born in the fictional timeline sometime in the early 1950s, Kramer led a relatively ordinary life until a series of devastating personal losses converged in the early 2000s. His unborn son Gideon died when his wife Jill Tuck suffered a miscarriage after a violent incident at her recovery clinic. Shortly thereafter, Kramer received a diagnosis of colon cancer with an inoperable frontal lobe tumor. The cancer diagnosis, doctors told him, was terminal. He had perhaps months to live, perhaps a year if he was fortunate. In the depths of despair, Kramer attempted to take his own life by driving his car off a cliff. He survived the crash, and in that moment of violent survival, something fundamental shifted within his understanding of human existence. He would later describe this experience as the moment he truly began to appreciate life, a rebirth that would inform every action he took from that point forward. What emerged from that crashed vehicle was no longer simply John Kramer the engineer. He became an architect of moral tests, a man who believed he had discovered a profound truth about human nature. People, he concluded, did not appreciate their lives. They squandered their potential, harmed others without consequence, and moved through existence without gratitude for the simple fact of being alive. He would change this. He would teach them. The name Jigsaw came not from Kramer himself, but from the media and law enforcement who investigated his crimes. Each victim who failed his tests was found with a small puzzle piece-shaped section of flesh removed from their body. Detective David Tapp, portrayed by Danny Glover in the original film, was among the first investigators to recognize the pattern and coin the term. Kramer himself rejected the label of murderer, insisting in multiple films that he had never killed anyone. His victims, he argued, killed themselves by failing to make the choices necessary for their survival. This philosophical distinction, while legally meaningless, formed the core of the character's worldview. Each trap, each test, was designed with a potential path to survival. The reverse bear trap, which appeared in the very first film strapped to the head of Amanda Young, portrayed by Shawnee Smith, could be removed if the victim retrieved a key from the stomach of a paralyzed cellmate within 60 seconds. Amanda succeeded, becoming one of the few survivors who would go on to assist Kramer in his later work. The body count attributed directly and indirectly to Jigsaw across the primary film series reaches approximately 60 confirmed deaths. This number requires careful qualification, as the franchise introduces multiple apprentices and successors who continue Kramer's work even after his death in the third film, released in 2006. Amanda Young, Detective Mark Hoffman, portrayed by Costas Mandylor, and Dr. Lawrence Gordon, portrayed by Carrie Elwes, all take up the mantle at various points, with deaths occurring under their direction rather than Kramer's direct planning. Counting only those traps designed and implemented by John Kramer himself, the number settles closer to 35 to 40 victims. The first film alone features 5 deaths. The second film, subtitled simply 2 and released on October 28, 2005, takes place largely within a single location, a house rigged with nerve gas and multiple trap stations, where 8 individuals must navigate a series of challenges. Only one survivor emerges from that particular test. What distinguishes Jigsaw from other entries on this ranking is the methodical, almost clinical nature of the death toll. Each victim is selected according to specific criteria. They are not random targets of violence. Kramer maintained detailed files on his subjects, studying their lives, their failures, their moral shortcomings. Amanda Young was chosen because of her drug addiction and her inability to value her own existence. Detective Eric Matthews, portrayed by Donnie Wahlberg, was targeted because he had framed innocent people to advance his career. Adam Stanheidt, portrayed by Lee Wannell himself, was selected for his voyeuristic profession as a photographer who spied on others for money. The traps themselves became increasingly elaborate as the franchise progressed. The original film featured relatively simple devices: chains and hacksaws in a bathroom, a cage of razor wire, a pit of hypodermic needles. By the later installments, full factory floors were converted into interconnected death machines, with pendulum blades, crushing walls, and carousel-mounted shotgun arrays. The cultural impact of the Saw franchise extended far beyond box office receipts. For nearly a decade, a new Saw film was released each October, becoming a Halloween tradition that earned the series the informal title of the Halloween horror franchise of the 2000s. Between 2004 and 2010, 7 films were released in consecutive years. The series returned with Jigsaw in 2017, Spiral in 2021, and Saw X in 2023, the latter of which returned Tobin Bell to the central role and received the strongest critical reception of any film in the franchise since the original. The philosophical framework Jigsaw operates within, however morally bankrupt in practice, gives the character a depth that resonates through each film. He does not kill for pleasure or supernatural compulsion. He kills, or rather creates the conditions for death, because he genuinely believes he is helping people. In the 2006 film Saw 3, as Kramer lies dying from his cancer, he delivers one of the character's most quoted lines to his victim, a grieving father named Jeff Denlon. "Those who do not appreciate life," Kramer states, "do not deserve life." This twisted altruism, this genuine belief in the righteousness of his methods, elevates Jigsaw beyond simple villainy into something more complex. Tobin Bell has spoken in interviews about approaching the character not as a monster, but as a man who experienced profound trauma and emerged with a broken but internally consistent moral code. This performance choice grounds even the most outlandish trap sequences in human emotion. The legacy of John Kramer continues within the franchise even after his physical death. The 7th film, released in 2010 and marketed as Saw 3D: The Final Chapter, was intended to conclude the series, though it obviously did not. Each subsequent film has found ways to incorporate Kramer through flashbacks, through recordings left behind, through apprentices carrying forward his vision. The character, it seems, is as difficult to truly kill as the franchise itself. At approximately 60 deaths across 9 primary films, Jigsaw claims his position at number 8 on our ranking. The precision of each kill, the elaborate planning required, and the philosophical framework underlying every trap create a unique entry in the annals of cinematic violence. He is not a force of nature or a supernatural entity. He is simply a dying man with engineering skills and a broken moral compass, convinced until his final breath that he was saving lives rather than taking them. Item 9. Jason Voorhees. There is a lake in New Jersey, though it exists only in cinema, that has claimed more lives than any body of water in fictional history. Crystal Lake, as it came to be known, serves as the geographic and spiritual center of one of the longest-running film franchises ever produced. And at the heart of that franchise stands a figure so iconic that his image alone, the hockey mask, the machete, the hulking silhouette, has become shorthand for an entire genre of filmmaking. Jason Voorhees first appeared in a film released on May 9, 1980. Directed by Sean S. Cunningham and written by Victor Miller, Friday the 13th was produced on a budget of approximately $550,000. The film would gross nearly $60 million worldwide, spawning 11 sequels, a crossover film, a 2009 reboot, and countless pieces of merchandise, novelizations, comic books, and video game adaptations. Yet in that original film, Jason is not the killer. He appears only briefly, in a dream sequence during the final moments, emerging from the lake as a deformed child to pull the sole survivor, Alice Hardy, portrayed by Adrienne King, from her canoe. The killer throughout the 1980 film is Pamela Voorhees, Jason's mother, portrayed by Betsy Palmer. Her motivation stems from grief and rage over the drowning death of her son decades earlier, a drowning she blamed on negligent camp counselors more interested in romantic pursuits than supervising children. The backstory established in the original film and expanded across subsequent entries tells of a boy born in 1946, the same year Camp Crystal Lake first opened for summer sessions. Young Jason suffered from severe physical deformities, including hydrocephalus, which caused significant cranial enlargement and developmental delays. The other children at the camp mocked and tormented him. The counselors, distracted and inattentive, failed to protect him. In 1957, during a summer session, Jason fell or was pushed into Crystal Lake and drowned while counselors were otherwise occupied. At least, that was what everyone believed. The second film in the series, released February 13, 1981, revealed that Jason had somehow survived his childhood drowning. Living alone in the woods surrounding Crystal Lake for over 2 decades, he witnessed his mother's decapitation at the hands of Alice Hardy at the conclusion of the first film. This trauma transforms him into the relentless pursuer audiences would come to know, beginning his killing career by murdering Alice in the opening sequence of Friday the 13th Part 2. In this second film, Jason does not yet wear his signature hockey mask. Director Steve Miner and the production team instead fitted actor Warrington Gillette with stunt work by Steve Daskowitz, with a burlap sack covering his head, a single eye hole cut through the fabric. It was not until the third film, released on August 13, 1982, and shot in 3D, that Jason acquired the iconic goaltender mask. He takes it from a victim named Shelley, portrayed by Larry Zerner, a prankster character who had been using the mask as part of various practical jokes throughout the film. That hockey mask, a white fiberglass shell with red triangular markings above the eyes and around the cheek areas, would become arguably the most recognizable image in all of slasher cinema. The design was based on a Detroit Red Wings goaltender mask, modified by the production's makeup effects team. Over subsequent films, the mask would accumulate damage, cracks appearing, pieces breaking away, the red markings fading, creating visual continuity that tracked Jason's ongoing conflicts with would-be survivors. The body count attributed to Jason Voorhees across the franchise is substantial, and calculating it requires establishing which films to include and how to count deaths that occur under unusual circumstances. The primary series consists of 12 films, beginning with the 1980 original and extending through Jason X in 2001, Freddy vs. Jason in 2003, and the 2009 reboot directed by Marcus Nispel. In the original 1980 film, Jason himself kills no one, his mother being responsible for all deaths. In Friday the 13th Part 2, Jason is credited with 9 deaths. Part 3 adds 12 more. The final chapter, released in 1984 and intended at the time to end the series, features 13 kills. Each subsequent entry adds to the tally, with Part the 6th, Jason Lives, from 1986, pushing the character into explicitly supernatural territory after he is accidentally resurrected by lightning while being impaled on a metal fence post. The 1989 entry, Jason Takes Manhattan, is notable for its misleading title, as the bulk of the film takes place on a cruise ship traveling from Crystal Lake to New York City, with only the final act occurring in the city itself. Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday, released in 1993, introduced a body-jumping possession element that allowed the Jason entity to transfer between hosts, complicating kill attribution. Jason X, the 2001 entry, transported the character to the year 2455 aboard a spacecraft, where he was responsible for the deaths of students and soldiers traveling between Earth and a space station called Solaris. Across these 12 films, Jason Voorhees personally accounts for approximately 157 confirmed kills. This number places him near the top of any list of cinematic killers by sheer volume. Individual kills range from the quick and efficient, a machete strike or neck snap, to the elaborate and physics-defying, including a sleeping bag, death in Part 7, The New Blood, where Jason lifts a victim in their sleeping bag and slams them against a tree trunk. The character's appeal lies partially in his simplicity. Unlike Jigsaw with his philosophical justifications, or Freddy Krueger with his sadistic wordplay, Jason Voorhees has spoken perhaps a dozen words across his entire cinematic existence. He does not explain, does not negotiate, does not toy with his victims beyond what is necessary to corner and dispatch them. He is, in many ways, a force of nature rather than a traditional character, a representation of inevitable consequence that punishes those who trespass on his territory. Multiple actors have portrayed Jason over the decades. Kane Hodder, who played the character in 4 consecutive films from 1988's Part 7 through 2001's Jason X, is perhaps the most associated with the role. Hodder brought a physical specificity to Jason's movements, a slight head tilt, a deliberate pace, a way of breathing that suggested rage barely contained. In interviews, Hodder has described extensive preparation for the role, including developing a complete internal logic for how Jason would move through space and react to various threats. The franchise's impact on popular culture extends far beyond the films themselves. Crystal Lake has become synonymous with remote woodland danger. The Friday the 13th date carries cultural weight partially attributable to the series, with marathon screenings and themed events occurring multiple times each year when the calendar aligns. The Kiki Mama Ma sound effect, created by composer Harry Manfredini for the original film by speaking the syllables kill and mommy into a microphone and electronically altering the playback, has become one of the most recognized audio cues in cinema. The 2009 reboot, produced by Platinum Dunes and directed by Marcus Nispel, attempted to consolidate elements from the first several films into a single narrative, portraying Jason as a survivalist living in tunnels beneath Camp Crystal Lake and kidnapping rather than immediately killing one victim who reminded him of his mother. The film earned nearly $92 million against a $19 million budget, though plans for a sequel have remained in development uncertainty for over a decade due to ongoing legal disputes between screenwriter Victor Miller and producer Sean Cunningham over rights to the character. The legal complexity surrounding Jason Voorhees has prevented new theatrical releases since 2009, though the character appeared in the asymmetrical multiplayer video game Friday the 13th, the game released in 2017, where players could control either Jason or counselors attempting to survive and escape. The game included multiple versions of Jason from different film eras, each with distinct abilities and weaknesses matching their cinematic counterparts. What makes Jason particularly effective as a villain is his connection to comprehensible trauma. He was a child who was bullied, neglected, and left to die. His mother avenged him and was killed for her efforts. His violence, while excessive beyond any justification, springs from pain that audiences can recognize if not condone. He is the monster in the woods that punishes those who stray from safety, a modern myth dressed in decomposing clothing and a cracked plastic mask. At 157 kills and counting, Jason Voorhees claims the number 9 position on this ranking. 40 years after his first appearance, emerging from Crystal Lake to drag a final girl from her canoe, the character remains one of the most lethal and enduring figures in cinema. He asks nothing of his victims except that they leave his lake alone. They never do. Item 10. Death. Final destination. There is no face beneath the mask because there is no mask. There is no figure lurking in shadows because there are no shadows to lurk in, at least none that would contain a physical form. The 10th and final entry on this ranking differs fundamentally from every killer that preceded it, because death, as it manifests in the Final Destination franchise, is not a person, not a creature, not even a visible presence. It is simply the universe correcting what it perceives as an error. The original Final Destination premiered on March 17, 2000, written by Glenn Morgan, James Wong, and Jeffrey Reddick, and directed by Wong. The film originated from a spec script Reddick had written for The X-Files, the popular television series that Wong and Morgan had previously worked on as writers and producers. When the concept proved too ambitious for an episodic television budget, it was developed into a feature film produced by New Line Cinema, the same studio responsible for the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. The premise established in that first film would remain consistent across 5 installments released over the following 11 years. A young person, typically a teenager or young adult, experiences a vivid premonition of a catastrophic event that will kill them and everyone around them. In the original film, high school student Alex Browning, portrayed by Devon Sawa, boards Voli Airlines Flight 180 with his French class for a school trip to Paris. Before takeoff, he experiences an intensely detailed vision of the aircraft exploding shortly after leaving the runway at John F. Kennedy International Airport. Alex's panicked reaction to the vision causes a disturbance on the aircraft. He is removed from the plane, along with several classmates and a teacher who either believed him, were caught up in the commotion, or chose to leave for their own reasons. Flight 180 departs without them. Minutes later, exactly as Alex foresaw, the Boeing 747 explodes over the Atlantic Ocean, killing all 287 passengers and crew aboard. The survivors, having cheated their intended deaths through Alex's intervention, soon discover that their escape was only temporary. Death, the film establishes, has a design, a plan for when and how each person is meant to die. By avoiding Flight 180, the survivors have created an imbalance that must be corrected. One by one, in the order they would have died on the plane, death comes to claim them through elaborate sequences of apparent accidents. These death sequences became the signature element of the franchise. Unlike slasher films where a visible antagonist pursues victims with weapons, Final Destination presents deaths that appear to be tragic accidents until the audience recognizes the pattern. A leaking toilet causes water to spread across a bathroom floor. A clothesline drips liquid into a cup. The cup sits near a computer monitor. The computer monitor sits on a desk that blocks a knife on a drying rack. Each element connects to the next in a Rube Goldberg chain of causality that ends in fatality. The first film features 9 principal character deaths, including the opening premonition sequence. Teacher Valerie Luton, portrayed by Kristen Cloak, dies in a particularly elaborate sequence involving a cracked mug, vodka, a kitchen fire, and ultimately a falling knife. Student Todd Wagner, portrayed by Chad Donella, dies in a bathroom when a clothesline spontaneously wraps around his neck while water prevents him from gaining purchase on the floor. Each death reinforces the film's central thesis that death cannot be escaped, only postponed. The franchise expanded with Final Destination 2, released January 31, 2003, which opened with a massive highway pileup involving a logging truck losing its load of timber. That single premonition sequence, before any intervention by protagonist Kimberly Corman, portrayed by A.J. Cook, depicts 18 deaths in graphic detail as vehicles collide, explode, and are impaled by loose logs. The film was directed by David R. Ellis, who had previously worked as a stunt coordinator and second unit director, and his expertise shows in the mechanical precision of the disaster choreography. Final Destination 3, released February 10, 2006, centered on a roller coaster derailment at an amusement park. Directed again by Wong, the film introduced elements of photographic premonition, where protagonist Wendy Christensen, portrayed by Mary Elizabeth Winstead, would see clues to upcoming deaths in photographs taken before the disaster. The film also departed from the previous entries by lacking any direct connection to the Flight 180 incident, establishing that death's design operated continuously and independently. The fourth entry, marketed simply as The Final Destination and released August 28, 2009, was presented in 3D and featured a motorsport speedway disaster as its opening catastrophe. A car tire breaking loose from a racing vehicle triggers a chain reaction of explosions and structural collapse in the grandstands. The film holds the distinction of having the highest body count opening sequence in the franchise, with the speedway disaster claiming approximately 52 victims before protagonist Nick O'Bannon, portrayed by Bobby Campo, pulls himself and his friends from the stands. Final Destination 5, released August 12, 2011, returned to the creative supervision of original writers Morgan and Wong, who produced the film directed by Stephen Quayle. The opening disaster involves a suspension bridge collapse during a corporate retreat, and the film introduced a significant variation on the franchise rules. Survivors could potentially escape death's design entirely by causing the death of another person who was not originally meant to die, essentially trading one life for another on death's ledger. Calculating the total body count attributed to death across the 5 films requires counting both the victims who die in the premonition sequences and those killed in the subsequent correction deaths. The premonition sequences alone account for enormous numbers. Flight 180 carried 287 victims. The highway pileup in the second film killed approximately 18 in the Vision. The roller coaster in the third film killed dozens. The speedway disaster claimed over 50. The bridge collapse killed approximately 40 in the opening premonition. Following each premonition, death then systematically eliminates those who escaped, typically between 7 and 12 characters per film who serve as the principal cast. Adding these correction deaths to the premonition totals and accounting for background casualties in various sequences, the franchise total exceeds 270 confirmed on-screen deaths across 5 films. What distinguishes death from other killers on this ranking is the impossibility of confrontation. Jason Voorhees can be struck, burned, drowned. Michael Myers can be shot, stabbed, trapped in burning buildings. Even supernatural entities like Freddy Krueger can be pulled into the waking world and physically attacked. Death, as presented in Final Destination, exists as pure inevitability. Characters cannot fight it, negotiate with it, or even perceive it until the chain of causality leading to their demise is already in motion. The films hint at death's presence through recurring imagery. Wind disturbs objects at meaningful moments. Shadows seem to move without corresponding sources. Reflections appear in surfaces where no person stands. In Final Destination 2, the character of mortician William Bloodworth, portrayed by Tony Todd in multiple franchise appearances, suggests that death may have a consciousness of sorts, a personality that enjoys the elaborate nature of its collections. Bloodworth appears to possess knowledge about death's design that no living person should have, though the films never explain the source of his insight. The franchise made extensive use of foreshadowing, embedding clues to upcoming deaths throughout each film's runtime. Brand names on products, overheard song lyrics, background television broadcasts, and seemingly random numbers all provide hints about how and when the next victim will die. Dedicated fans have compiled extensive documentation of these Easter eggs, noting that almost every frame containing a character who will later die includes some visual or auditory reference to their ultimate fate. The rules governing death's design evolved across the franchise, sometimes inconsistently. The original film establishes that death claims victims in the order they would have died in the original disaster. The second film suggests that new life, specifically birth, can disrupt death's design. The third introduces photographic premonitions. The fourth largely abandons rule exploration in favor of spectacle. The fifth adds the kill-or-be-killed substitution mechanic and concludes with a twist, revealing that it was secretly a prequel all along, with the surviving characters boarding Flight 180 in the final moments. Tony Todd's portrayal of William Bloodworth provided the franchise with its closest equivalent to a recurring character beyond death itself. The mortician appears in the first, second, and fifth films, offering cryptic guidance to survivors while seeming to enjoy their increasingly desperate attempts to escape their fates. Todd brought gravity and unsettling calm to the role, suggesting that Bloodworth had seen too many of Death's collections to be surprised by anything the survivors might experience. The cultural impact of Final Destination extended into everyday awareness of environmental hazards. Viewers reported heightened anxiety about logging trucks after the second film's highway sequence. The third film's roller coaster disaster prompted online discussions about amusement park safety protocols. The franchise tapped into a fundamental human anxiety about the random nature of accidental death, the understanding that any moment could be your last through no fault of your own and no action you could take to prevent it. At over 270 deaths across 5 films, Death claims the top position on this ranking not through malice or motivation, but through simple mathematical inevitability. Every person will eventually die. The Final Destination franchise merely accelerated the timeline for its characters while providing audiences with the uncomfortable reminder that their own timelines, too, are finite. There have been discussions of a 6th installment for years, with various writers and directors attached and detached as development cycles came and went. The franchise last released a film in 2011, making it over a decade dormant as of this recording. Yet Death, unlike its competition on this list, requires no resurrection, no reboot, no reimagining to remain relevant. It was here before cinema began and will remain long after the last projector goes dark. Closing 10 killers, hundreds of victims, decades of cinema spanning from 1974's original Texas Chainsaw Massacre through the ongoing releases of the present day. What emerges from this ranking is not simply a tally of fictional deaths, but a reflection of changing anxieties, evolving special effects capabilities, and the persistent human fascination with mortality presented at safe remove through the medium of film. The killers at the lower end of this spectrum, Chucky with his possessed doll form and Leatherface with his family of cannibals, established templates that would be refined by those who followed. Ghostface brought meta-awareness to the slasher formula, acknowledging and commenting on the very conventions it employed. Pennywise drew on ancient fears given form, the monster under the bed made manifest in small-town America. Freddy Krueger demonstrated that dreams offered no safety. Pinhead revealed dimensions of suffering beyond physical comprehension. Michael Myers proved that evil could wear a human face and require no explanation for its existence. Jigsaw reframed violence as twisted education. Jason Voorhees became an icon through sheer persistence, his hockey mask recognizable to millions who have never seen a single film in his franchise. And at the summit, death itself, the only truly undefeatable force on this list, patient and inevitable, requiring no mask because it wears every face eventually. These characters persist because they address something fundamental in the human experience: the acknowledgement of mortality, the fear of random violence, the anxiety that safety is an illusion we construct to make existence bearable. They allow audiences to confront the unconfrontable from the security of theater seats and living room couches, to experience terror and survive it, emerging when the credits roll into a world where such monsters remain confined to screens. The body counts continue to rise with each new installment, each reboot, each legacy sequel. The numbers documented tonight will be outdated by the next franchise entry, superseded by new victims and new elaborate demises. Yet the fundamental appeal remains unchanged from the earliest examples of the form. We watch because we need to see the worst that could happen, and in seeing it, remind ourselves that we have not yet met such fates ourselves. The theater goes dark, the screen fades to black, and somewhere, in the imagination of a screenwriter yet to put pen to paper, the next entry on this list is already taking shape.